pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. It looks like we're making our way through this COVID situation. On this evening's agenda, we're going to begin a COVID-19 update, and we've got some old and new business to go through. So,
Right.
Who's going to go first, you or Kim?
So, if you want, we can let Kim go first, since she's the guest. Hi, Kim, how are you? Yep. Yep.
Mute.
Hang on one second, Kim.
Yep. We're just trying to adjust the audio here so we can hear you better.
Volume 20. Volume 26. Volume 28.
All right, try that, Kim.
Volume 30.
It's just coming through
No,
the...
we won't get it through the.
Yeah, I wonder why. We had this problem last week. You're coming through the computer, and even though we have the volume on the computer turned up high enough, it's hard to hear you.
Do you want me to start yelling?
Not quite yet.
Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna, sorry.
If you change that to TV, would it work, or will you lose her?
I'm gonna lose her.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Huh.
So something with this. So, I'm gonna pull you a little closer to the selectmen here. See if they can hear you a little bit better.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely, well, that's not good. Is there a better way I could?
Volume 31.
How about if we have a call in?
Yeah, we can have you call in if you'd like.
Okay,
Yep,
all
so,
right, let me do that, so, I'll get off of this and find the,
No.
call-in number.
yeah, no, you can stay on this. You can stay on the computer. We can just have you dial in by phone to,
Okay.
to extension 452. So 878-2772.
I was getting all fancy, I'm like, I thought you were gonna do a Zoom.
Yeah.
Like 878, I know that, okay,
Yep.
hold on. Sorry. 878.
2772
2772
And-
extension.
extension 452.
Okay.
Now, we tried that this afternoon and it worked.
Oh, through the TV?
Yeah.
You came through.
Yeah.
You must have-
You there, Kim?
Hi, you here? Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, I think I've got to shut volume down on one of them, so let me turn the volume off on this. How about now?
Perfect.
Okay, let me see if I can hear you, and... Okay, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Can you hear us?
Perfect. Well, hello, and thanks for inviting me. I've been in contact with Scott, but there really hasn't been much for me to do in the beginning with COVID in terms of
Volume 31.
being at a town level. Things were at a state level and we're moving so for me to even keep up to date and post things, it was already, something had already changed. So I felt very comfortable, and I think Scott did too, with me just kind of taking a back burner. But now it's a different feel in terms of where the virus may or may not be going. And I think that it has a different meaning to people. And to some, it's, it's a barrier, it's a terrible thing. To some, it's a joke. To some, they'll do whatever they have to do to keep their businesses open. Some like, yeah, okay, tell me, make me. And so I think there's a lot of division between this is absolutely ridiculous and this is the scariest thing ever. And being a health professional at this point in time with that is probably anybody's worst nightmare. And now that it's coming to people wanting others held responsible for the expectations, that I think has put the health officer role like right on the middle of stage for a solo, and I definitely am not prepared or, you know, in terms of how do you enforce the things now that the state is telling us we need to do. So I thought this would be a good point to have a conversation with you guys, and also concerns. Does Chief Carpenter know that, you know, the state is saying that these articles are enforceable by law? Do they know? Are they prepared? And that's about where I'm coming from. So I welcome whatever conversation you might want to have about it.
Kim, are there any, can you kill that mute on the computer? Okay. Kim, are there any items specifically that you see that
I
could
just had
potentially
the
be
computer
happening
itself.
in town that would be requiring law enforcement, or is it more subjective that you think it could happen?
I think that right now, the behavior that would probably justify police intervention at some point is the norm right now. So basically, the behavior is there, we're just not enforcing it. So I don't think it's a matter of what will happen, it's a matter of what will happen if we try to enforce it. You know, when there's, you know, 5 and 6 people having coffee outside of the market, and, you know, especially if there's an outbreak. Right now, people, you know, they're getting a little immune to the news and numbers and stats, and they're getting sick of people talking. And they just want the bottom line, I think, for a lot of things. And to them, 9 potential cases is really not the end of the world. And, you know, you're not going to convince them otherwise. Do I think that, I mean, I'm not completely confident what I know. I mean, yeah, it's a virus. Is there, you know, is it too soon to open up? It's really, personally, I don't know, but as a health officer, it's not my luxury to entertain that thought. I am required to do what the state says that I need to do. It's not an opinion, you know, so, I don't remember what the original question was, but yeah, there's enforceable behavior out there, if we want to enforce it, but, retail businesses, people are policing them, they're sending, you know, they're taking pictures of people and putting them on Facebook. If there's, you know, a group of 3 people or whatever, people not wearing masks, I'm getting, you know, some vicious emails about retail businesses that are being harassed. And then the businesses, a couple have not been very nice to me, which was very, very surprising, because my approach was, you know, I just have to follow up, and I'm here for you. I'm here to see what can we do, and this is only one business, but I'm here to see what we can do to make sure that, you know, you're in compliance, so that if the state comes in, you know, they don't have reason to go looking. So let me help you. Like, let's put some tape on the floor. Let me recommend you put tape on the floor 6 feet apart. If people want to stand 6 feet apart, they're going to. If they don't, you can't force them, but at least if the state comes in, you can say you've tried, you know. And I was super nice about it. And, you know, do me a favor, you should probably take the Facebook post down that has you with all your employees neck and neck during COVID, you know. So, but, and the person was very non-receptive to me, so I'm like, wow. And I wasn't even telling her to do anything. I was making some suggestions. So this could get ugly very, very fast for somebody. And 2 more things to add. I see that, and this is just a total observation, it has nothing to do with Finnish population, but I'm finding in social media, in the community, there seems to be less compliance among certain groups. And people are noticing, and they're wanting someone to enforce that. I definitely don't want it to be me.
I guess from where I'm sitting here, I would need more specifics in whether it doesn't need to be held in this forum, but maybe if you're doing the approach to these businesses to try and assist them, and if they're not being receptive and there are items that you see are going to be a health issue, then I think you should contact Scott and Tim and see what we can do to explain to them the requirement to abide by the guidelines.
Right, and I have to, oh, I'm sorry. Was somebody else talking?
No,
I have kept Scott in the loop all the way. I have been in touch with the Department of Public Health. She was actually contacted by the original complainant. And so I've asked for clarification from the Department of Public Health, and her response was a quote from one of the articles. I use the word articles. It's not an article. It's not a directive. What
the
is
executive order.
Executive order, okay. From one of the executive orders, and quoted that it's enforceable, but it's only suggestions that are forwarded. It's highly suggested. There's nothing in there about consequences, about who enforces, about who is going to supply the PPE. If somebody says, well, I'm a small business, who's going to pay for masks and gloves? I can't afford that. Or what if my employee refuses? I've had that. The employee has refused. Can they enforce that? There's a lot of little areas, I would think common sense, but we know that that's not the case right now for many. And like for me, I think that New Ipswich Market is asking for trouble. They've got a wide open bench out front asking for people to sit. I mean, the news crews can go by and take a picture. I mean, they're just advertising. Hi, we really don't take this that seriously. Can you tell?
The point I have for it is, I mean, if the complainant felt uncomfortable at a private business, then she has every right to boycott that private business. That's my point, and this is my point with a lot of people. And is, well, so and so's, and I had this even at my own work. They said that so we deliver food to the houses. Okay, so these people are riding around on the buses they have the heaters going on the cold days and stuff. So the woman had taken her mask off of one ear and it was hanging. So she got out of the bus and forgot to put the mask back on. Now, we've also told that they're supposed to stay 6 feet away. So the kid comes running out the house to come get his bag of food, and he runs all the way up to the bus instead of maintaining the 6 feet, which we've asked about. So he runs all the way up. The lady, overreacts a little bit and tells the kid to stop. The kid runs in and tells his mom, the lady on the bus yelled at me and she wasn't wearing her mask. So my first response was the kid wearing his? Because in all reality, everyone's supposed to be wearing a mask. But again, we can't force a private business. A lot of these businesses have closed that could be essential because they can't afford that cost to them to provide PPEs for their employees and their customers. So if you want to frequent that store, it is your responsibility for your own health and safety to provide your own PPE. We also already know, Kim, as a health provider, most people aren't even wearing their PPE properly. If they're wearing gloves and they've worn them in the car, they've worn them in the store, now they're back in the car, they've done absolutely nothing to protect themselves. So my response So my response to your complainant is, if she feels uncomfortable with the way a certain business is operating under the suggested operating procedures, she can ignore that store. No one is making her go to that store and get out of her car and go and frequent that store and buy anything. There are many other stores in town that provide similar items, and if not in town, within a 15-20 minute drive, she can find something else. So that is my response, is there are alternate ways for people to get things, and if it's something they absolutely need, then there are stores around that are fulfilling every suggested recommendation in the executive orders. So that's my point, is I'm not going to go to a store and say, the governor suggested you do this, you have to do it. Because if we make it mandatory, then we have to provide the items. And that is not something we're at a point that we're going to do either.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when the supplies are inflated, and then even if everyone had PPE, you're going to get someone that's going to be standing in line and go, they didn't change their gloves when I think they should have. So there's really no pleasing the people, and a lot of times we're just kind of feeding the ignorance. But I'm fine to let people know that, you know, this is just natural consequences. You don't need a law. If you don't like the measures they're taking or not taking at an establishment, and there's other choices, don't go.
Exactly.
But does everyone agree with that, or is John on his own with that?
I'm kind of agreeing with John, but on the flip side of that, I know last night I was reading the recent executive order that allowed hair salons and barbershops and whatnot to open. And reading the requirements there was no we suggest or whatever. It was, you will stay in your car, I think, until you are called in. You must have PPE, all the employees must. And I mean, I didn't see anything that said it's recommended.
No, because and I think with something like that, most barbershops and stuff are very small. You don't see one that you can really 6 to 13 feet distance in. And I know they're doing that in many places, that, no, you have to hang out. I mean, they're even looking at that with the elections coming up in September, on making people wait and only having certain. But I look at it as if there's a directive and it's so that these people can open up and you can get a haircut or you can get your hair colored or whatever else that people are freaking out about. I completely understand that you are willing to go through those steps in order to use that service. But like I said, if you go to Market Basket, not that I haven't been to Market Basket in a while, but I understand that they're only allowing 50% capacity. You have to go down the aisles only in one direction. You're supposed to stay a certain distance away, and at the registers you have to stay 6 feet back. But I also know people that have gone and they're saying it's working well, it's moving through. But at the same point, we can't mandate that. That was a suggestion, and they're willing to do that. Scott, I believe you said you went or drove past Home Depot or Lowe's, and there was a long line outside because they were only allowing certain people in. But I look at it as it was a suggestion made, and if you want to operate your business and keep people going, you're going to follow those directives. If you're not going to follow the directives, then you take the chance of people feeling uncomfortable and not going to your store. And those that do go to your store should know at this point the risk they're taking.
And that's where I'll
Is
look.
this meeting recorded?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I had something to say, but not for public, but, you know, it's pretty, to you and me, yeah, I don't want that on tape. The things that are common sense, yeah, I mean, one person I went to follow up, they actually had people say that they weren't there, and then saw the person, and then they said, oh, well, they're busy, and so I said, well, I'll wait. And actually, I waited in the car for 15 minutes. I wonder how long they were going to make me sit. And then finally I went, really? Okay, all right. Just do something just to get rid of me, but to disrespect and just ignore somebody, I'm like, that's really not going to get us very far. But, you know, that's the part. You live in the community. I don't want to, have COVID over, and I can't go to Dollar General or shop anywhere, have ice cream, or, walk in and go, oh, God, everybody hates me. So, but at the same time, you're right, John, there is nothing enforceable, and I've read the executive orders over and over, and it's extremely vague about retail establishments. So if you have a store but you serve fresh food, is that one retail? And then if it's takeout, and this is just not a game for people who play by the rules, because people are taking the very costly and inconvenient measures to do the right thing, and they're watching other people do whatever the heck they want, and with no consequences. And I know I'm a rules follower, it kind of bugs me too, but that's my personal opinion, and I can't impose that and go everywhere saying, no mask, great, and people are really being nasty. Yeah, I'm getting dirty looks for wearing a mask at times. So, yeah, I was giving them a dirty look too, they just didn't know it. So, who had the last laugh there?
Yep.
But I'm willing to do or not do whatever is consistent with what you feel is necessary for the town. And I went to Massachusetts to visit somebody, and I couldn't even get out of the car without putting a mask on. It was my mother-in-law. I couldn't even get out of the car. I should have just stayed in the car, right? But yeah, strict. There's fines there. We're looking for people looking at us. It was just 4 of us, just 4. It's really gotten really crazy out there. So
I think, Kim, if you just, and we don't have a lot of businesses in towns, I think, that are for residents to be going in and out of. But I'm glad to hear that you've reached out to those that you felt could be, and at least try to educate them. If they are non-receptive, as John has said, we've been in this long enough. People should know how they should prepare to go in and out of these places, and that's their decision. If they feel uncomfortable, they know to turn around and leave and go somewhere else. But I don't think, unless it's, and I was trying to focus more on items that the town is controlling, and that's why, as far as public gatherings, we've canceled pretty much everything. And that's where, if there were things not being done correctly, I would advocate to get law enforcement involved if we need to. But if it's the private businesses, if you've tried to educate them, I'm hoping that they're all being receptive, but I can understand where some might not be.
Right. And for the most part, people have been really nice, and I think that to a bigger degree, they've not been told they have to, so why would they? I guess there, of course, if it's a financial issue and whatnot, but it's definitely inconvenient, so they're kind of not going to push it unless they have to, and you can't blame some of them. But I think that there is bullying going on amongst citizens, amongst businesses. Businesses are sitting ducks, because if you do anything that someone doesn't like, they're going to go and smear it on Facebook, and it's unfortunate, but a lot of times it's not even accurate. Like you said, they were just, John was saying how it just took the mask off at that second, and somebody could have taken a photo. Oh, here's a bus driver handed a kid, no protection, whatever, and partial truth. But what I'm taking out of this is, if you don't like the way a business is doing something COVID related, I'm not talking like, whatever, they're coughing all over sandwiches or something, the previous laws in place for food service, we're just talking COVID stuff. if you don't like it, then, you go somewhere else. I think that bullying, we shouldn't support anything that allows companies to bully, like, Big Brother's watching, just report and someone will, I just think it's just not nice, I'm grateful for these businesses for being available to feed us, so I guess part of me is coming from that. And I had a third thing, but I don't know what the heck it was.
Well, let me interrupt you 1 second, because for those businesses that don't know, I know it came out yesterday that the state is providing PPE equipment at no cost for the businesses. They just have to contact them, and they're making arrangements that they can be picked up at a local DMV location. So there's no cost to them, so cost should not be an issue.
Okay, the cost should not be an issue. Okay, so the local, and the small business owners can do this themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they contact the state. It just came down because the state got a huge shipment in yesterday or day before. And they contact the state, and then they pick it up. So the closest one for us, they would pick it up in either Keene or Milford.
okay, maybe, is it possible, I don't know, again, maybe I'm just being a coward and I don't want my name on stuff, but maybe just sending local businesses a little informational thing, and with it, the contact information, if you are in need of, of PPE, this is the contact, so if people will perceive more as a resource, because I think going forward, there's going to be a lot of long-term measures in place, like they're going to, at some point, require, plexiglass and barriers and things like that. I just feel like it's in the future, so I don't think this is something we have to just kind of wait out and it's gone. I think there'll be remnants of this in our practices and, retail and healthcare and every other thing, and I don't know what that would mean, but I think that having a good relationship as a resource in town versus someone who's enforcing something is going to serve us, well.
Well, Kim, what we can try to do is find out what those links to the state sites are and get them up on, at least on our website for businesses.
Oh, good, yeah.
So we'll try to get that done in the next day or two.
For anyone watching, we'll get them put up. But for anyone watching or watching later, nheconomy.com/COVID. So nheconomy.com/COVID. And then you pick them up free of charge at various New Hampshire DMV locations.
Okay. I'm glad you repeated it twice, because with the accent, I got autonomy. I got a New Hampshire autonomy. It was economy. Sorry about that. That translate. I'm like, New Hampshire economy. What is that? Okay, we got it. NewHampshireEconomy.com //
Really?
How
I'm
did
going with the
really,
accent.
really?
Really?
And pick up DMV. Okay. I think I've said enough.
Thank you, Kim.
Do you guys have plenty of supplies for the office?
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape right now.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, we could. The only thing that we're running short on is, sanitizing wipes.
Say that again. You need some?
We do. Yeah, we're very low on them. So we had some, but we've gone through them because we're constantly wiping things down.
Good answer. I will see if there's any contacts through the New Hampshire listserv in terms of any contacts for
Yeah, we've put several on order, but none of our suppliers can come through.
like black market stuff now, like underground.
Yeah.
The new drug Lysol wipes. Somebody's doing it. All right, guys.
All right,
Well,
thank you, Kim.
You have my email if there's any issues, and I'll do the same. Have a great night.
You too.
You too. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Looks like we've got John Schamoffel on as well.
Old and new business. Under old business, I had a couple of items, Scott, for an
Okay.
update. I know that tax deeding process with this COVID thing may have been in a glitch, but have we finalized what we need to do, or has it been done?
I think we're actually in better shape than I thought, but still a few loose ends to confirm so that we can move forward. But on some of the properties, we're ready to do whatever you'd like to do with them.
Well, I'm assuming that tax the letters and notifications and switch over happened already.
Right,
So, because I've had people inquiring, oh, what's gonna happen with this, and what's gonna happen, and we said, well,
right,
let the board discuss trying to do it all at one time.
right.
So,
Yeah.
how many loose ends do we?
Well, there's only, there's really only one property, I think, that I have a question on now, and that's the Greenville Road property. But I'm gonna see if I can confirm that notice another way. And if not, we can always renotice that one if we have to.
Well, that's what I was wondering, is
Yeah.
if that process can, I don't know.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long for us to do it.
Are we allowed to do it though, during this COVID-19? Because I remember seeing a bunch of can't do this
So, well, that's a very good question.
Yeah. Any of the ones that were done prior to were all
Are
set.
fine, right,
But if this one had to be renoticed, then I think we would have to wait.
right.
and,
Yeah, based on the governor's executive order. Yeah. But let me confirm
okay,
on that one.
because we should think about
Setting a date.
setting a
get-
date,
Yeah,
yeah.
getting the guy, getting the auction company out.
How do we go about that?
So you can do it via sealed bid, set a minimum bid to make sure we're recovering our costs associated with each property.
Okay,
So, and any surplus, of course, we have to return to the original owner. But we should, I'm gonna have to work with Jessica to establish exactly what those costs were, and she's been out a while herself, so. But we can get the numbers for each property, and, you know, Greenville Road, we've expended some additional money cleaning up the property. The fence hopefully will be going up shortly as well on that property.
anything on that one there, anything that happened with the vehicle?
So, so apparently the type,
One sec.
Yeah.
We can talk all we want about the Greenville Road property because the owner has asked everything to be said in public.
Okay, alright,
That's why we can discuss that one.
yeah,
The other ones we can't discuss
yeah,
unless we go into non-public.
okay.
But I just want to make sure Sean
Well, I
understood
was
why.
questioning it in my head, I didn't
Yeah.
want to say anything.
We, a couple times out of courtesy and out of the rules, we discussed it in non-public.
Yeah,
And we'd even given notice to the owner to come be at the meeting. And because all it said was non-public, because the name wasn't on the agenda, they never showed up.
oh, yeah,
So we have in writing that everything about that property can be discussed in public session.
okay,
Okay, sorry.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so that, apparently the titles to those vehicles were lost in the fire. So, that becomes a quandary for them, not so much for us, in that they are gonna have to apply for duplicate titles if they so desire. Otherwise, they would have to, you know, one of the other processes is we can have a service remove the cars, hold them, you know, in lieu of payment for removal. And then there's a process that they go through, much like a mechanic's lien process, to get title to those cars so they can dispose of them. So that's an option as well. But I want to talk to the owner again. I do have a return voicemail from her to see what, you know, what they would like to do on that.
Okay,
So,
good.
Yeah, and I think there's some that we're not going to recover our costs on. But I think if anything, we can get it off of our
Yeah.
hands and into someone else's.
Yeah.
Or whatever has to happen so that it's, you know, because I think there's a couple, there's no way we're gonna get what we're
But we're owed.
owed. Plus, costs
Yeah.
initiated. So.
Now, on this subject,
Mhm.
because I have been asked by a couple people, it seemed like had the tax deeding process not taken place in town for a while, and then all of a sudden, like, there's like a revamping, like a push to do that, cause it was like, people were wondering where it was coming from.
It was coming from the fact that taxes weren't being paid,
Yeah,
and people were taking advantage of the fact of the board historically not being active in following what can be done for the town.
okay,
So you go through the process. We don't want to take people's houses. So there's been many times they've come in, they would set a payment plan. But there was no end to the payment plan, and there was no payment set up that would ever get them out of owing money.
Yeah.
So they would make a payment plan on what was back owed, and then they wouldn't pay their
Still
taxes.
accruing, yeah,
And then what they were paying wasn't even covering the interest on their non-paid taxes. So they were never going to get out of this hole, and they were never coming back with any additional funds to take care of it.
yeah,
And more importantly, there is no property that's been tax deeded that the person wasn't on a payment plan and kept their end of the bargain.
Right.
Because those that are on the payment plan, we said, this is your payment plan, this is what we've agreed to.
yeah,
But if you miss your payments,
Right.
you
Yeah.
go tax deed.
yeah,
And so many times in the payment plan, there was never a date of revisitation. So someone's paying this for 5 years, and they're never going to get out of the hole. They're not, like I said, they're not even paying the interest.
yeah,
So this goes on and on and on, and who's floating that? The people that are paying the taxes.
yeah, yeah,
So is that fair to the people that are paying taxes? No. Like, we don't want to be landlords. We don't want to be property owners beyond what we already own town property-wise.
yeah,
But at a certain point, it's not fair to the people that are paying their taxes, who are maintaining it and keeping a good record. So it finally came to the point where, as a board, we decided that enough's enough.
yeah,
And yes, we have initiated this. But we've been going at this for probably a year, 2 years to get to this point, because it hadn't been done in so long. We had to make sure that we were up to date on all the rules that have to be followed,
yeah,
and making sure that we're sending out all the notices and pieces like that. But like David said, there's not a single person that we're tax deeding that we haven't bent over backwards to help them keep whatever they're in. And
That's
all the ones that are being deeded, it's 100% on their fault
alright, yeah, so it was just a correction of what's been going on, you know, historically.
historically.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
And properties in town have been tax deeded. Don't
Yeah.
let anybody kid you that this is something new.
yeah.
The
Well, I
next
didn't
one
know if
on
it
my
seemed
list is a
like
perfect.
push through, you know, like, is there a whole bunch that, like, kind of,
Yeah.
like, so it's like a,
We're trying to do them in.
yeah.
In
yeah,
bulk,
Here
right?
they are.
Yeah, because otherwise, like I said, you have to go through this process, whether it be legal process or an auction process or whatever. So there's a cost to the town. So if we can lump them and do it at once,
Yeah,
it costs us less money to do them in a lump than it does to, well, we're going to deed this one this month, and you'll see that in other towns. All of a sudden, you'll see in the paper there'll be 6 properties up on auction for the town.
yeah,
Because it costs money to do that. So to do them one-offs isn't really worth the time.
yeah.
That's what I'd like to propose, though, is that we don't go through an auctioneer. I mean, last time we lost money on the deal.
Okay. I'm fine how
And I
we,
don't remember anybody from outside of town being at that one auction that I went to see.
I don't think we have many properties on this that we would, because it would have to be a commercial property for us to get anyone from outside.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and only because I know when I worked for the bank, that was one of the things I did, was I was in the collections. And unless it was a commercial property or a multi-family or whatever, you didn't get out of towners or out of staters coming up. If it was a single family home, you're gonna get you might get 5 people and they're all gonna be in the area,
Mhm.
and you're lucky if you get that, because it's gotta be something really worthwhile or be at the right time of the year.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we can get the packet of properties,
Sealed bids.
seal bids, give them ample time, set up a date to show them, and see what comes out of it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The next one on my list is, did the letter to Temple Road go out?
It did.
Okay.
I got a response back, and it has been delisted,
Mm-hmm.
and he is still moving forward. He says he's already
You
engaged.
gave me the deadline though, the end of May, I think it was, to have the building permit.
I put that in an email to him, but I have not followed it up with a letter, but I will.
Okay. The next one on my list is, I'd like to reopen the discussion about the loader. People I've been talking with, they told me, take the tires off and you'll get that much money just for scrap metal, never mind if you try and sell it. And if we're that close to a value, and I would like to suggest we park it right out front with a for sale sign on it, as is, see what we get. If not, try and go on one of these website things with a posting. If we get twice what we've been offered on trade-in, purchase, whatever we want to call it, we're that much further ahead.
I'm gonna have to plead ignorance on commercial equipment. I don't know, if it was so
I think you would do the same thing I did.
yeah.
Put the year in and see what.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I mean, when they say hours and stuff, how many hours are on it? You say 1,000 hours. That seems like a lot. People go, oh no, that's great. And I'm like, oh, okay,
And I was told by people in the business that, if you're trying to, even if you had a newer one and, let's just say you're trying to get $40,000 or $50,000 for a piece of equipment, not everybody's out to spend that kind of money, especially a smaller business. Whereas if you're lower in a $10,000, $20,000 range, it's more like, I could really use that, and it's not that bad of a price, type scenario, and they think that that's more of the market that we're in here. So I thought,
Instead of listing it out front, like for sale, is there a, like municipal bid?
Municipal, yeah, there are
like
places to put excess, surplus property on, specific, to municipalities.
that's up in that's at state, at the White Farm, and you have to bring it up there.
No, there's actually a website,
That they set one up?
that they sell. They specialize in municipal surplus equipment nationally, and you can put a description and a price on there and try to get bids that way.
There was like a piece of machinery up in Peterborough that they're looking to get rid of, for like the infield groomer and different. There's like a lawn cutting machine, and it'd be perfect to maintain the fields. So I thought, hey, maybe get a good deal on it. But they weren't even willing to talk about a price, and they said that they had to list it on the municipal bid, and they could let me know when the listing was going to happen. And so I didn't know if that was something that we had to do versus having the choice to sell it like out front, or
We
No,
can,
there's no,
they might have an internal policy that requires them,
just for their town?
yeah,
Yeah.
but there's
Probably,
no,
probably somebody did something wrong at some point, so now it has to be done that way.
Yeah, yeah.
so the only concern I have about, I mean, we could certainly take the trade out of the deal with, Equipment East. But once we do, then, you know, we're stuck with, you know, selling it, showing it, et cetera. And I don't wanna wait too long, you know, because Equipment East, even though we're renting that piece of equipment, doesn't mean that they're not actively marketing it. So if we don't buy it, they're gonna try to sell it to
I'm
somebody.
not saying that we should hold off on buying it.
Well, that's what I'm asking is.
No, I'm saying we buy it
Take-
and,
Pay the extra $5,000 for it.
right, the only question I had in my mind,
Yeah,
we are the agents to expend from the
Yeah.
capital reserve. Are we the agents to deposit? In other words, you sell it, I want
Oh,
that
I-
money going back in.
yeah, there is absolutely no problem with the Board of Selectmen selling, town property.
That's not my question.
Yeah,
Can I take that money now and deposit it back into that capital reserve
you
fund?
cannot, it's gonna go into the general fund.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
trying
Yeah,
to keep
it's gonna
that
go into
capital
the general
reserve fund
fund.
up there.
Until you reappropriate it at next town meeting to put it back into the capital
Oh, but we
reserve.
could do that then.
You could do it after the fact, yeah.
Okay, yeah, even after that.
Yeah.
As long as one way or another, that money gets put back into the capital reserve is what I'm,
Yeah, you
Trying to
just
advocate.
have to do it with a warrant article
Okay.
next spring.
No, I'm fine with it then. I mean, if we think we can get 10,000 for something they're gonna give us
I
5,000
don't
for,
wanna mention
no,
prices.
no, but I mean, no, I'm not saying prices, but if like you said that,
20,000.
Yeah,
but you said that someone might, you know, be looking at it, you know, if we can get twice as much or 3 times or 4 times or whatever it is, I'm fine,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Like you said, I mean, I know that, I mean, that happens a lot of times. You put new tires on a vehicle and then all of a sudden the engine blows and they're gonna give you scrap for it. Well, you take the tires off and the tires are worth more than they're gonna give you in scrap. So I'm fine with that. So, you need a motion?
Yes, please.
Motion to, sell the old loader instead of using it as a trade-in to Equipment East.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, that actually happened. You put 4 brand new tires on a vehicle and then the transfer case went on it. So it's sitting there in the yard right now.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah.
You gotta buy new. You gotta buy new.
Yeah, and of course the tires don't fit the other vehicles that we have either. So
So now you just get to look at those tires.
yeah, oh man, look at those, they're nice.
If you pop them off, I can tell you, put them up on Craigslist, they'll
Yeah.
be gone quick enough.
The other question I have, Scott, any update on our questions from last week's review of the budget?
That negative usage.
So the
Minus
negative
599.
5999. Meredith says that was had to be misposted. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Roger about it yet, but she said that should not show up as a negative number. That was part of a grant. And she says why it got posted that way, I don't know. So I'm gonna have to get together with Carlene and Roger and figure out what account it should be offsetting grant money that we received. So it should be netting out to 0 in some line item, not a negative $5,999.
Good. Then I think there were only 2 other items. One was the expenditures at the pool.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Don't have an answer for you on that.
And where did we leave the RFP for the street lighting?
So,
Were you still getting info?
I am still getting info, and I want to understand if we need to restructure it to take advantage of the best Eversource program out there for rebates.
You guys have any?
No, I have nothing.
Sean?
No,
Right, I
We have no,
got a couple of,
Yep.
couple of things. So I have a letter here from Officer Hine.
Yep.
And basically, actually I can give you a copy of it. Basically, he's got 3 personal days left over that he would like to carry forward.
Yep.
And this is just his reasoning as to why, and a lot of it has to do with the chief being out and some of the other COVID activities that, rather than using his personal days, he's been basically covering time with it because we're down a person. And he just wanted your permission to carry those 3 days forward.
I'm fine with
I'm
it.
fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Motion to approve Officer Himes' request to carry 30 hours over of his personal time.
There a second?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So with the personal time, it doesn't run on like the calendar year
No,
for
it's on the
everybody, it's just
employment.
on the
Yeah.
employment
Yeah.
days.
Employment anniversary, right? The other issue I had, I got a call from Bart today regarding Oak Hill Road. He was contacted by another attorney representing one of the homeowners on Oak Hill Road.
Yep.
And they were talking about the very issue we all discussed last week. And this particular owner, he didn't say who it was that the lawyer was representing, but they're concerned about their liability, they're concerned about access, and this kind of gets back to the discussion of putting some type of lockable gate to prevent people from using the road. Bart floated the idea of us putting together a memorandum of understanding with the folks on that road with respect to whether we would agree to some type of lockable gate, etc. Honestly, I asked them, I said, is this something that they are proposing? Do they have a memorandum of understanding, something that they're proposing that we need to respond to? And he said no, he was suggesting that we kind of initiate that. And after thinking about it, honestly, I don't know that we need to do anything. I mean, our current easement pretty much gives us the access that we need. The other issues that they have really is a civil matter.
Right.
And I'm not sure that we need to do anything.
I wouldn't get into it because, again, I think we're overstepping the civil issue, because now we're saying that we're in a memo of understanding to put a lockable gate when the 2 people that have legal rights to both ends of the road, if they say they don't want a gate and they don't want to have to inconvenience themselves getting out,
Yeah.
we've just stepped in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had the after last week's meeting, I had the conversation with Mr. Lucia. And that was one of his questions was, well, can't we do gates and bars and lock them? I said, no. You know, the understanding and the agreement that was set up was the town has emergency access over there. I'm not gonna rely on a police officer or fire personnel to get out, unlock the gate and move up. The agreement is what we have.
Yeah.
And I think, and he said, you should drive the road. So I went drive the road, and there's no sign there that says, and this is what I recommended to him, is, posted as no trespassing. Violators pass at their own risk. Because his concern was
Liability.
liability. I says, simple as that. Well, how do I know that's gonna hold up in court? I says, I don't know, but at least you've done your due diligence. And so I'm assuming he's the one that spoke with his legal counsel.
Yeah.
And I think the town in 2007 spent the money with the legal counsel, got their advice, came up with the agreement, and that's where we should leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be honest with you, I don't know why anybody would want to drive up that road.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
Rough.
rough shape. Thank you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like driving down Upper Pratt. I mean, when you go down put it this way, when you go down Upper Pratt, that is a road that's maintained by the owners, and one person might do a beautiful job up to their property or at their driveway, and you might lose an axle by the next driveway. But it is what it is. I mean, you like you said, you take it into that's a private road.
Right. And I think if he just has it worded properly, he should be fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
on a side note, I was up in Moulton Borough this past weekend.
me too.
I have never seen so many private roads. I mean, I would have said 90% of the roads are all private roads. You drive down private road, private road, private road, and I'm like, you can tell none of them are paved. So I think we're no different than any other town. Is you have your private roads, you maintain them, and provide the access for those that have the rights to go over it. So,
All right.
Yeah.
You asked me to bring it up, so I did.
good. Any other business?
Other than that draft letter that I
Yeah.
sent you?
Yep. Any new business or
Sure.
business?
I don't have any new
Yeah.
old.
Okay.
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A2C, matters which discussed in public would likely affect the versa the reputation of any person.
I'll second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.